Welcome to the Department of Mass Communication, Galgotias University. I am Dr. Nikki Tiwari, your course coordinator of Media Industry and Entrepreneurship, BAJC3002. Today I am going to discuss on the topic Regional Newspaper Industry in India. Prerequisites of this course is Basics of Print Media and Basics of New Media. Core requisites of this course is Computer with Internet Connection. Learning objectives. On completion of this course, the students will be able to understand about the regional newspaper and industry in India. And also the students will be able to understand Hindi newspaper industry in Uttar Pradesh. Regional newspapers in India. Newspapers in India can broadly be classified into two groups. English newspapers and language newspapers. As the name indicates, English newspapers are published in English language. They are mainly published from big cities and towns, whereas language newspapers are published in different Indian languages. Unlike the English papers, these are available even in the interior villages of the country. Thus, they have a major role in formulating public opinion across our country. By language newspapers, we mean newspapers published in different languages spoken in the country. They are also called regional newspapers. In India, language papers are published in more than 100 languages, but the main papers are published in 16 principal languages. Language papers vary from English papers in their style, presentation, and approach. Differences between English newspapers and language newspapers. English newspapers are published in one language only, that is English, whereas language papers are published in different languages. English newspapers are mostly concentrated in big cities and major towns. Language papers are circulated all over the country, even the remote areas of the country. English newspapers cater mainly to the well-educated middle class, upper middle class, and higher income groups, while language newspapers are read by even lower middle class and even those below that. English dailies have less penetration in the rural public, whereas language dailies have more penetration in the rural areas. English newspapers follow the British tradition, while the language newspapers have evolved their own style and methods. More money is generated from advertisements in English newspapers as they circulate amongst people with better purchasing power, while language newspapers do not get the same amount of revenue from advertisements. English newspapers are more colorful and flamboyant, while language newspapers adopt a simple style. Growth of language newspapers in India. At the time when India became independent, the country had only 3,533 publications. Among them, 330 were daily newspapers and 3,203 were periodicals. After 50 years, there has been a 12-fold increase in the number of publications. In 1997, according to the data published by the Registrar of Newspapers of India, there were 41,705 publications, among which the number of newspapers was 4,719. In 2006, this has gone up to 45,600 publications, in which 5,600 are newspapers. India has the world's largest newspaper market after China. While newspapers are struggling in Europe and USA, in India and China there is a boom. It is interesting to note that the world's three top countries in newspaper circulation are China with 98.70 million copies, India with 88.90 million copies, and Japan with 69.10 million of copies. Growth of language newspapers in India. Growth of newspapers is calculated in two ways. One is by circulation and the other is by readership. One copy of a newspaper may be read by several people. If a family subscribes to a newspaper, it is likely to be read by 4 or 6 members. So if a newspaper has a circulation of 1 lakh, its readership may be 4 or 5 lakhs. A close study of newspaper readership in India shows that there are more readers for language newspapers. This is mainly because English newspapers are confined to cities and towns, whereas language newspapers are widely circulated in the rural areas. During the independence struggle and after, the Indian newspapers had flourished and expanded, gaining wider circulation and extensive readership. Compared to many other developing countries, the growth of the Indian press has been impressive. Apart from English language newspapers are published in India in more than 100 languages, though only 22 main languages are listed in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. The Registrar of Newspapers of India, the National Readership Council of India, and the Audit Bureau of Circulation are some of the organizations which regularly conduct studies on newspapers in India. They do it as an annual exercise and publish reports. Apart from this, researchers and authors have done extensive studies on the newspaper evolution in India and published books. According to Naresh Khanna, who studied about the trends in circulation of regional language papers, 4 languages showed the fastest growth between 1998 and 2000. They are Malayalam, Bengali, Hindi and Marathi. Malayalam Manorama, a language daily in Malayalam, which was started in 1890, became the largest circulated daily in India by 1980s. Malayalam Manorama continued to remain in that position for more than a decade. Anand Bazar Patrika in Bengal continued as the largest circulated newspaper published from Kolkata, but when the Hindi newspapers started expanding in a big way, they surpassed all other language papers in circulation. Today, Dainik Jagran and Dainik Bhaskar are the 2 largest circulated dailies with a readership of more than 20 million. Most language newspapers have shown remarkable recoveries in circulation in the late 1990s. The National Readership Survey of 2006 revealed that newspaper readership in rural areas has grown so fast that it paralleled the readership in urban areas. Now I am going to discuss about those reasons which are responsible for the growth of the regional newspapers. Rise in literacy rate. There is a steady rise in the literacy rates in all the states of our country. More and more people are being initiated into the world of reading and writing. They gradually learn to read newspapers and periodicals. Robin Jeffrey, who made elaborate studies about the newspaper evolution in India, says that the fastest growth rates in newspaper circulation were in states which showed the strongest growth rates of literacy. Expansion of the middle class. As the Indian middle class expands, it leads to an increase in the circulation of newspapers. When a household makes economic and educational progress, they consider it as a status symbol to subscribe to a newspaper. Untapped market. India still has an estimated 350 million people who can read and write but do not buy any newspaper. So there is a vast segment that is still untapped as far as newspaper circulation is considered. More and more newspapers are trying to vote this section. Education of women. It is often said that if you educate a woman, you are educating the next generation. In India, women are getting more and more educated, and this in turn leads to education of children. Awareness also increases along with this. It contributes a lot to the growth of readership. Next is technological advancement. In earlier days, starting a newspaper publication or establishment of a new edition was a costly affair. As technology has improved, it became easier for newspapers to start new editions. This has led to an expansion of newspapers even into small cities and towns. Aggressive marketing. Newspapers and periodicals are adopting aggressive marketing strategies to attract more readers. They offer various schemes with gifts, to attract subscribers. They also offer concessions for long-term subscriptions. All these have resulted in an increase of newspaper sales. Political awareness. As people become more and more aware about political developments, they show interest in reading newspapers. In India, sections of people who had earlier not shown much interest in political activities are now realizing their rights as citizens and are becoming more vigilant about their social responsibilities. These are the references from where the contents have been taken. Thank you.